Hello, hello, hello there, folks. Welcome to season 6 of our On the Call series produced by the Stars Among Us. I'm Ozzy, as you know, and I'm very happy that you have tuned into this thank you tour of mine, as each episode is a thank you card to those who've impacted my life in one way or another. And on this 8th episode of season 6, I'm shining light on Narada KBROWN. Hello, Narada.
Hello, Ozzy.
Hi. This season again is the season of remembering those who have passed last year. I lost 5 people between August and November. And also those people who have picked me up in one way or another, and you're one of them. While my heart was hurting and I was grieving. Anyway, people, Narada and I know each other from Facebook. Initially, I thought Narada was a woman. For a long time. But what happened was that while I was going through all of this hurt, because it's almost every month I'm losing somebody, one of the things that he did was just put himself out there as my biggest fan, my number one fan, the head of my fan base, my fan club is what you would call it. It made me think of himself and all of the others who have been following me and who have been commenting on things that I put out, who have been assuring me in terms of their responses to a lot of the comments that everything is okay and I'm sort of not alone in my grief, as well as life, as well as responsibility in terms of what I put out. So here is Narada. Narada, from what I know, and we'll find out a little more, Narada studied political science in Clayton State University. Was a New Yorker until he moved to Georgia. He still enjoys the membership, being part of the membership pool for the Knicks, Jets, and Mets. Tell me which one is not true there, Narada.
Oh, it's all true. I'm a New Yorker. I was born and raised in New York. However, prior to coming to Atlanta, I spent a few years living in Boston.
Ah, okay. What led you to the New York to Boston, Georgia part of your life?
I married someone who lived in Boston.
Got it.
And so first we were going to move to New York, then we decided to move to Boston.
Okay. And then how did Georgia come about?
Well, my marriage didn't work out. So coming to Georgia put me closer to my children who had went to HBCUs and decided to stay in the South. So my children were here and so were my grandchildren.
Right. Makes sense. So your father, grandfather.
Yes.
And I noticed that you're deeply steeped in political science. You're aware of a lot of the scenarios that are happening out there. You do post to certain pages or groups like the Racial Equity Group, Black History Group, Black Facts Group, Native American Group, and then there's the Dharma Group. How does that fit?
The Dharma Group?
Yeah.
I'm on the board of directors of Freedom Behind Bars Foundation.
Right.
And the Dharma Group...
Before you explain that, what is the Freedom Behind Bars Foundation about? What does it do?
It's about freedom behind bars. And we try to get the inmates to understand that although they may not be in control of everything that happens to them, they are in control with how they think about what happens to them. And it's how they think about what happens to them that controls how what happens to them affects them. Mm-hmm. Okay? And that's the theme that we try to convey to the inmates.
Mm-hmm. And that is once behind bars. Does that follow through for when they get out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they can continue because mindfulness, being aware of what's going on, we try to get them to understand that our mind is an organ like any other organ, and it has a job, and that's to think. Mm-hmm. And that's what it does, and it does it very well. But it's like any other organ, like our heart pumps. Its job is to pump. It'll pump the blood that sustains us as well as it will pump the poison that kills us. We have to make that choice. Mm-hmm. The same with our lungs. It'll breathe oxygen or gas. The choice is ours. The same arises from the mind. We have to decide and be selective on what we allow our mind to dictate us to do. It's up to us. It's called mindfulness, being aware of what's going on.
You were the CEO of Cara Security. What was Cara Security?
Cara Security was a company that I started. It was Security and Private Investigations. It was a company I formed in Boston after I stopped working at the State Office of Affirmative Action. Now I'm in Georgia. I'm retired. I write some articles. I do my posts on racial equity. Mm-hmm. That's what I've been heavily involved in. I do a lot of reading, and I share with the members of my group.
Right. Yes, you do. I also noticed that you like the Rachel Naddell show. Do you still follow it?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, because Rachel goes in depth of a lot of stories. When she's finished, you know all about it. Okay, I love that about her. She gets really involved in the stories that she.
So you're missing her now that she's only going 1 day a week, I believe. And are you then following her on her podcast?
No, I see her every Monday night. And during the week, I spend most of my time watching Nicole Wallace, who I think is very good at her job.
Yeah, I like her better here at what she's doing now rather than when she was on The View.
Right.
What do you think of Ari Melber?
Ari is okay, but how much news can you watch? After a while, they start seeing the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
And after watching 2 hours of Nicole Wallace, there's really not much left for anybody else to talk to me about.
Yeah, I tend to sometimes catch the back end of Nicole and go right into Ari. Because with Ari, he has the legal mind. And so he puts things together in a really very succinct way. And with his type of humor, he's such a great fan of hip hop. It's always interesting to see how he twines the two, puts it all together.
Yes.
He's my guy, but I do sometimes catch up with the last maybe half an hour of Cole, which is good. Did you have mentors? How did you get involved in politics?
Well, I didn't get involved in politics until I got to Boston.
Oh.
When I was in New York, I worked for a subsidiary of Dun & Bradstreet. So I was heavily into the capitalism scene. When I got to Boston, I got the opportunity to work at the State Office of Affirmative Action. And working for the State Office of Affirmative Action, I got to get involved in the political arena and in the needs arena.
In the what arena?
The needs, the making sure that state government was inclusive.
Interesting. But you studied political science.
Yes.
Was that not a natural thing to go from that into politics?
Well, at first, I wanted to be an attorney when I was in college. But then when I got married, had children, and it all got lost in the shuffle.
So did you have any mentors?
Mentors? Yeah, my father.
So tell me about him.
Well, my father was much older than I am. And I mean much older. Because I tell people that my father had 2 aunts that were slaves, okay? And that gives you some idea about how old my father was. And he gave me a lot of wisdom, shared a lot of wisdom regarding life, how life isn't fair, and you have to accept that, and how to move on.
What were your 2 biggest dreams as a child?
My 2 biggest dreams as a child was probably to be a baseball or a basketball player. Okay. I started out playing baseball because my father played in the Negro League in New York. I started out playing baseball because I wanted to kind of, impress him and, make him proud. But then it got to a point where a lot of the baseball leagues didn't have any black players. And I got up to a point where I was the only black kid playing. And I felt a lot of racial tension. So I left to play basketball because that's where all the brothers and sisters were.
So now, as far as the business that you created, the Kara Security, what led to that? When
I was at State Office of Affirmative Action, I worked closely with the Massachusetts Department of Investigation. And when Dukakis left as governor, a lot of changes took place. And I left and I started a security company. And one of the reasons I started was because a lot of the attorneys should talk about how when they had to take depositions or they had to deal with people of color, they were having a hard time because their investigators were white. And so I started a security company. I started filling that void. So half a dozen of the attorneys that used to work with Massachusetts Department of Investigation would send me their clients. So I'd send my investigators to take depositions and to give people rides to court, take them back home. And people felt a little more comfortable dealing with investigators of color.
What kind of situations did the white investigators have?
Well, when they went into the black community, they stuck out like a green thumb. And in some cases, some people of color, not only black, Hispanic, Native American, Cape Verdean, some wouldn't open the door, because they felt uncomfortable. And when I began sending my investigators, the doors opened wide and people talked more freely. And that made the attorney's job somewhat easier.
Sure. What was the joy in that job for you? would love for you to be able to put it in words.
Well, it helps people out, for one, getting the full story out. Some people were being railroaded were now getting their just due because the people who could help them or crucify them spoke up because they felt comfortable giving that information to another person of color.
You made some big inroads, and that must have really made you feel happy.
I felt good and I made good money.
Right. What has been the biggest challenge with that business?
The biggest challenge in that business was simply getting it off the ground and convincing those attorneys that they could benefit from my service. And once I accomplished that, then my business began to grow. What
is one thing, place, or person or event that has changed your life perspective?
The courageousness of Kim Williams Crenshaw and Nicole Hannah Jones. When they shared the critical race theory and 1619 project, I thought that was courageous. And it helped me to want to make a contribution towards the truth of history.
And what do you see as your contribution or contributions?
The Racial Equity Group, my group that I administer, and it only deals in giving the truth about American history, because American history has been propagandized to a point where it's really unrecognizable. And I've had a problem with that for years. When these two ladies came forward, then I wanted to make some kind of contribution. And as you know, that's what I do.
Yeah.
I provide the truth about the experience of people of color, not just Black people, people of color, all people of color, as you know.
Right. What are you most proud of in your career and life?
Wow, that's a good question. What am I most proud of? Probably career-wise was when I was co-chair for Blacks for Dukakis for President. Although we got killed, I felt pretty good about myself and what I was doing. Even though we didn't win, but that didn't matter.
Right.
I was more focused on what I was doing,
right,
what I was trying to do, and that made me feel good about my position.
Give me a couple of things that you're grateful for from that business and also on a personal level.
What I'm most grateful for is my children are well and my grandkids are well. That's what I'm most grateful. I have quite a few friends and people that I know who can't say that. I feel fortunate, very fortunate that I can say that.
At this point in your life, what more would you like to achieve? I see what you're doing in terms of the Equal Justice Initiative, Racial Equity Group. What else would you like to achieve?
I would like to have a platform where I could share the knowledge I'm uncovering. I think more of us need to understand more about America's history, because it really bothers me that we have been bamboozled regarding history. And I would like a platform where I can share what it is I know.
Not only that, with the banning of books and whatnot that's going on,
right,
it's a very important thing.
That's partly what it's all about, preventing people from knowing the truth. If you don't mind, I'll give you one example. America has been a country for 243 years. America has been at war for 222. That's 90% of the time, Ozzy. We've been at war with somebody. Like Veterans Day just passed and people would tell me, oh, thank you for your service, for defending our freedom. And I say, you're welcome. But Ozzy, I can't think of a war that America has fought because its freedom was in jeopardy. I can't think of one. But I'm a veteran and I fought in the war, so what can I say?
How long were you in it?
Well, I was in Vietnam for 13 months and it changed my life. I went the only thing I had ever shot was a basketball.
Right.
And when I got to Vietnam, I was married to an assault rifle, to an M16. And I say married because I didn't go anywhere without it.
Right. Let me ask you this. What is something you used to value that you don't value anymore?
That I used to value that I don't value anymore. Oh, boy.
And that question kind of popped up for me as you were talking about America and wars and everything else, so it's like, wait a minute.
Well, the same thing. I used to place great faith in our history. And I don't have the faith that I used to. For many years of my life, I was proud of our history. It wasn't until I found out that I didn't really know our history that it began to change. And to some degree, it hurt. That was like going to Vietnam. I had no problem going to Vietnam. I wanted to defend my country. And, years later, I found out the reason we went wasn't what we were told. That hurt. I was patriotic at a point in my life.
Well, when you say that you would like to have a platform, there are many platforms out there.
Yes.
You're using one right now, and maybe you need to pull one up on which you can voice, you know, what you are writing, putting in print right now. You've got YouTube, you've got the live thing on IG where you could just get up there and do maybe 15 minutes on a topic.
Our group has over 650 members, and they read all of those posts every day. I mean, like every time I look, there's 20 or 30 different comments on posts that I've written or that they've shared on their page. So I feel confident that I'm getting the word out. So like I said, I can use a couple of thousand more numbers. That would be great, you know, but I'm just doing my part to get the word out.
Do you want to state right now the name of the group and how people can connect to it?
Yes, the name of the group is the Racial Equity Group. It's on Facebook, and you can apply to become a member, and I'll look at your page. I don't approve everyone because I have to look at their page. People who want to join have to look at their page first, because I've seen some people who's on their page, they've got on a mega hat, okay? And right. I don't want mega people in this group.
So Narada, is there a meaning to your name, Narada?
There was a time when I was in a spiritual search, and the people, my friends and close associates, they started calling me Narada. Okay? Because especially when they come by, be meditating, and you know, so they totally to the east.
So the correct pronunciation is?
Narada.
Narada.
Yes.
Got it. Now that I know. What has inspired you these past 2 years since COVID?
What has inspired me?
I remember you mentioned the two young ladies initially, but what and who has inspired you?
Well, yeah, them, Wakanda forever.
Yes.
I'm big on the unleashing of our talent and our skills. Like this show. I'm grateful that you have this show. I'm glad that you have this show because it opens the door to people like me. Okay? And the door wouldn't be open without people like you. Giving us a helping hand. And that's great.
That being said, what do you think of The Woman King?
The Woman King?
Have you seen it yet?
Not yet.
Will you be seeing it?
Yes.
Any two things that people don't know about you?
I don't know. My life is an open book. I wrote a book, a biography.
Really? What's the name of it?
The System versus the Law. It deals with what's going on today in the justice system.
When did you write that?
Oh, in 2008. And what's going on in the justice system and how the system and the law are at odds. That's why so many people are wrongly convicted, okay? When a person is running for district attorney, they don't campaign on making sure that justice is served. They campaign on how many people they send to prison, okay?
Right.
That shouldn't be their job. Their job should be to make sure that justice is served. Whether you're guilty or innocent, doesn't matter. When they run for office, all they talk about is, I sent this many people to jail. I've had these many convictions. That's all they talk about. And that's unfortunate because that's the system versus the law. They should be running on the fact that they are instilling justice, serving justice of the people.
What do you think of Bragg right now, our district attorney here in New York?
I don't really know much about her. Only one I know about is Letitia James. And I love her. I think she's doing a hell of a job.
Correct. I'm so happy she stayed in her position rather than running for governor.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, people. So you know, Kenneth Brown, check out his book, System versus Law. And his group, Racial Equity, is his group on Facebook. Become a part. He is very good at pulling out bits of history that are really intriguing, interesting, and important to know. Just so you know, right? And on that, I'm going to say thank you very much, Kenneth, Narada KBROWN, as well as my audience for spending your valuable time with us today. Please care to share, and remember, when you're on your beat, stay on the sunny side of the street safely, be health conscious and kind to one another, and don't forget to give thanks for the little and big gifts. Kenneth, it has been a pleasure to get to know you more deeply than what I read. But I want to also say thank you very much for your support on my page. You're always there. It's always good to see you there. Always good to hear, well, not hear, but to read your comments and for me to read what you do. And I thank you very much for that because, again, you know, we all need to have support.
Yes.
right, in what we do. But
Yes.
yours has been consistent, and I really appreciate that. And again, when I was going through last year, because I was going through what I was going through, didn't mean that I stopped delivering for my group on Facebook. So whenever I would be on, it was wonderful to see you there, and also that little tickler that you'll always say in terms of being the president of my fan club. Always made me smile, and I thank you for that. So it's sort of smiling through the tears, and I appreciate that very much. So
My
that was
pleasure.
impactful.
My pleasure.
So with that, we will be seeing each other maybe tomorrow morning or the next. And I thank you very, very much again. I'm very, very happy to have you on. Appreciate you coming on.
Yes, it's my pleasure. It was an honor.
Lovely. So we'll be talking again soon.
Yes.
Take care. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hey there. Please help us in our mission to support those facing fatal diseases through our t-shirt sales by donating or shopping at aussiestewart.com or supporting us at anchor.fm/AussieStewart. That's ANCHOR.FM/AussieStewart. And don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel at Aussie Stewart. Yep. Leave a comment.